I was 28, living in a cramped apartment with peeling paint, a fridge that held nothing but expired yogurt, and a bank account that mocked me with a 12.47 balance. My life wasn't just a mess, it was a screaming, burning wreckage. 3 years ago, I hit rock bottom so hard I thought I'd never climb out. I'd lost my job, my girlfriend walked out, and my so-called friends stopped answering my calls. I spent my days glued to my phone, scrolling through endless feeds, numbing myself with viral videos and memes while the world outside moved on without me. I wasn't living, I was barely existing, drowning in self-pity and cheap whiskey. The worst part? I didn't even see it coming. One day, I was a guy with dreams, a decent tech job, and a social life. The next, I was staring at an eviction notice, wondering how I'd become the guy who couldn't afford a $5 coffee. It started small, the kind of thing you don't notice until it's too late. I'd stay up until 3 a.m., binge watching shows or arguing with strangers online about things that didn't matter. My work suffered, missed deadlines, half-assed projects. My boss gave me a warning, then another. I told myself I'd get it together, but I didn't. I'd wake up at noon, groggy, promising myself I'd be productive, only to fall back into the same cycle: phone, snacks, sleep, repeat. By the time I got fired, I was too numb to care. My girlfriend Sarah stuck around for a while, trying to pull me out of it. She'd beg me to put the phone down, to go for a walk, to talk to her. But I couldn't. I'd snap, we'd fight, and eventually, she left. I don't blame her. Who wants to be with someone who's checked out of their own life? The lowest moment came on a rainy Tuesday night. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by empty takeout containers, scrolling through my ex's Instagram. She was on a beach somewhere, smiling, living the life I thought we'd have together. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My eyes landed on a bottle of pills on the counter, leftover pain meds from a dental visit. For a split second, I thought, what if I just didn't wake up? That scared me. Not because I was afraid to die, but because I realized I wasn't even living. I was a ghost in my own story, fading into nothing. That night, I cried harder than I ever had. Not just for what I'd lost, but for who I'd become. I wish I could say I woke up the next day with a fire in my chest, ready to change everything. I didn't. It took weeks of wallowing, of staring at my ceiling, wondering if I was worth saving. But one morning, something shifted. I was scrolling through YouTube as usual when I stumbled on a video of a guy who'd lost everything: job, family, home, and rebuilt his life. He wasn't preaching some fluffy self-help nonsense. He was raw, real, talking about how he'd been a screw-up, how he'd hated himself, but how he'd clawed his way back. I watched it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. For the first time in months, I felt a spark. Not hope, not yet, just a tiny, stubborn refusal to give up. That spark became my lifeline. I started small, stupidly small. I deleted one social media app. Just one. It felt like cutting off a limb, but I did it. I set a timer for 30 minutes a day to limit my phone use. I failed half the time, but I kept trying. I started journaling, scribbling down my thoughts, my regrets, my anger. It was messy, ugly, but it was mine. I began going for walks, not to get fit, but just to get out of my head. I'd leave my phone at home, forcing myself to notice the world. The way the air smelled after rain, the sound of kids laughing in the park. Slowly, I started to feel awake. The turning point came when I landed a freelance gig. It wasn't much, just a small coding project for a startup, but it was the first time in a year someone trusted me to do something. I poured everything into it. I worked late, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I remembered what it felt like to care about something. That gig led to another, then another. 6 months later, I had enough saved to move out of that dump of an apartment. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't broke anymore. More than that, I wasn't lost anymore. I'd started to rebuild, brick by brick, from the ashes of who I used to be. The truth is, rebuilding my life wasn't some Hollywood montage with uplifting music and instant results. It was gritty, uneven, and sometimes I felt like I was crawling through mud just to make it to the next day. But every small step I took, every moment I chose to fight instead of fold, taught me something. You don't need a perfect plan to change your life. You just need to start. I'm not here to sell you a fairy tale or some cookie-cutter self-help garbage. What worked for me was a set of deliberate, practical moves that anyone can do, no matter how deep the hole you're in feels. Let me break it down, not as a guru, but as someone who's been where you might be right now, lost, stuck, and wondering if you'll ever get out. First, I had to face the mess I'd made. Not just the external stuff, like my empty bank account or the eviction notice, but the chaos inside my head. I started by writing it all down. I grabbed a cheap notebook and just vomited my thoughts onto the page. The shame of getting fired, the sting of Sarah leaving, the way I'd let my dreams slip through my fingers like sand. It wasn't pretty. Some days I'd write pages of pure self-loathing, but putting it on paper was like draining poison from a wound. It gave me clarity. I saw patterns, how my phone addiction fueled my procrastination, how my fear of failure kept me from trying. If you're stuck, try this. Get a notebook, a scrap of paper, anything. Write down what's eating you. Don't censor yourself. You don't need to show it to anyone. Just get it out. Next, I set boundaries with my phone. This was huge. I was spending 10 hours a day scrolling, numbing myself with endless TikToks and Twitter arguments. I downloaded an app called Freedom to Block Social Media during work hours. At first, I'd sit there twitching like an addict, desperate to check my feeds, but I stuck with it. I also moved my phone charger to the kitchen, far from my bed, so I couldn't start or end my day scrolling. Instead, I'd read a book or just sit with my thoughts. It sounds small, but those moments of quiet helped me reconnect with myself. Try this. Pick one app that sucks up your time, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and block it for just 1 hour a day. Use that hour to do something real. Read, walk, or even just think. Then I created a stupidly simple routine. I'm not talking about those 5 a.m. morning routines you see on Instagram with green smoothies and yoga. Those are great for some people, but they felt like a setup for failure for me. My routine was basic. Wake up by 9 a.m., make my bed, drink a glass of water, and work on one task for 25 minutes. That's it. I used a Pomodoro timer to keep myself honest. The first week, I failed half the time, overslept, skipped the water, got distracted, but even a bad day was progress. That one task, whether it was sending an email or coding for 25 minutes, gave me a win. Over time, those wins stacked up. If you're starting from zero, pick one tiny habit. Make your bed, brush your teeth, whatever, and do it every day. It's not about perfection, it's about showing up. I also had to rebuild my confidence, which was shattered. Getting fired and losing my relationship made me feel like a total failure. So I set out to prove to myself I could still do hard things. I started with small challenges. I took an online course on web development to sharpen my skills. It was free through a site like Coursera. I'd work on it for an hour a day, even when I felt like quitting. Finishing that course, even if it was just a certificate, was a spark. It reminded me I wasn't useless. Then I pitched freelance gigs on platforms like Upwork. My first pitch was terrible, clunky, desperate, but I kept refining it. Eventually, I landed that first coding job. If you're feeling worthless, pick one skill you're decent at or curious about and learn something new. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just do it consistently. Finally, I surrounded myself with better influences. Not people at first. I wasn't ready for that. but content. I stopped watching mindless videos and started listening to podcasts about personal growth and entrepreneurship. One guy, a former addict who'd turned his life around, talked about curating your inputs. That stuck with me. I unfollowed accounts that made me feel like crap and followed ones that inspired me. Over time, I felt less alone in my struggle. You can do this too. Audit what you're consuming. If it's dragging you down, cut it out. Replace it with something that lights a fire in you, even if it's just a tiny ember. These steps didn't make me a millionaire or fix my life overnight, but they gave me traction. A year after I started, I was freelancing full-time, earning $4,000 a month. Nothing crazy, but enough to pay my bills and save a little. I moved into a better apartment, one with actual sunlight. I read 15 books that year, something I hadn't done since college. My mental health wasn't perfect, but I wasn't drowning anymore. I started to believe in myself again, not because of some grand epiphany, but because I'd proven to myself, one small step at a time, that I could change. I'm not standing here telling you I've cracked the code to a perfect life. Far from it. There are still days when I slip, when I scroll too long or doubt myself, but the difference now is I know how to get back up. Rebuilding my life after hitting rock bottom wasn't about finding a magic fix. It was about choosing to fight for myself, even when I felt like I didn't deserve it. I'm living proof that you don't need to be special or have it all together to turn things around. You just need to start right where you are with whatever you've got. My story isn't unique. Millions of people have clawed their way out of dark places. But what makes it matter is that it's mine. And if I can do it, so can you. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait for the perfect moment. That moment doesn't exist. If you're stuck, if you're scrolling your life away, if you're staring at a bank account that's screaming failure, or if you're just tired of feeling like you're not enough, do one thing today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Delete one app that's stealing your time. Write down one thing you're mad about, one thing you want to change. Set a timer for 25 minutes and work on something, anything that makes you feel alive. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be yours. Those small choices, they stack up. They become the foundation of a life you're proud of. And here's the thing, you don't have to do this alone. I didn't. I leaned on videos, podcasts, strangers on the internet who'd been through the same mess and shared their stories. That's why I'm here, sharing mine. If this video hit you, if it made you feel seen or gave you even a flicker of hope, hit that subscribe button. Join me on this journey. I'm not promising you'll wake up tomorrow with a six-figure job or a perfect relationship, but I'm promising you'll hear real stories, real struggles, and real ways to keep fighting. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're at. What's the one thing dragging you down right now? How many hours are you losing to your phone each day? Or maybe, what's the one tiny step you're ready to take? I read every comment and I'm rooting for you. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about us. It's about refusing to let rock bottom be the end of your story. It's about picking up the pieces, no matter how broken they seem, and building something new. I did it. I'm still doing it. And I know you can too. So go out there and take that first step. Your life's waiting.